and of TripHacks DC Tours, in case you haven't seen me before. This is a live stream, so if you're watching it on the replay, go ahead and leave me a comment after you watch and let me know if you have been to the Wharf before, and if you had, what your favorite thing to do here is, or if you haven't been before, what you think you most might like to do when you come. So I will go ahead and say hello to everyone in the live chat. If you're joining me live, go ahead and say hello so that I know that you're here. Ronnie Dove, hello, good morning, how are you doing? And know about Washington, D.C. and the Wharf. You might be thinking, well, Rob, you're not actually at the Wharf. I'm a little bit south of it right now. I wanted to start all the way down here for two reasons. One is that I wanted to stop by one of my favorite obscure monuments in D.C., which I'll show you in just a moment. And then I wanted to walk past Phase 2 of the Wharf, which is currently under construction, because right now Phase 1 is what most people refer to when they... But we have an entire second wave that is under construction, and if it's on time, will be open in 2022. So let me go ahead and flip the camera around so that I can walk you over to what is one of my personal favorite. I guess you could say this is an obscure monument. It has been featured in a few TripHacks DC videos before and podcast episodes. It's called the Titanic Memorial. Now, I trust that most people know about the RMS Titanic, what happened. Even if you're not a history buff, you've probably at least seen the movie with Leo and Kate. I like to think that if they come to DC, this is their favorite memorial to see. But the interesting thing about this memorial is that it's not just a memorial to the Titanic disaster. If you look really closely, go underneath the statue, it says it's specifically dedicated to the brave men who perished in the wreck of the Titanic, who gave their lives so that women and children may be saved. So, not everybody who looks up close realizes that it's kind of a specific memorial here. But you have the person here with their arms outstretched like a ship's mast. And of course if you've seen the movie, you know the famous scene where this is, in a way, recreated. So I always like to pop by here when I'm in the area because it's kind of cool. And it's one that most people don't see when you come to Washington, D.C. Whether you come on a tour or not, you typically see the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, World War II Memorial. You don't usually get off the beaten path and see stuff like that. Not to say that I would necessarily go out of my way to go see it, but if you're already going to be in this part of town, it might be kind of cool. Jason Bone, good morning, Jason. Good to see you here. Ronnie Dove has been to DC a few times, and brother is stationed at Fort Myers. That's pretty cool. Do you come and see your brother when you come, Ronnie? Or do you come and take a vacation when you're in DC? Sometimes when you do those family trips, it can be both. Now, if we look at the water here, this is not the Potomac River, technically. This is the Washington Channel. And that big park over there, that is East Potomac Park. So back in April, when cherry blossoms were in bloom, I did a live stream from the big park across the water. And that is honestly one of the best, if not the best, place to see the cherry blossoms when they're in bloom during cherry blossom season. For the simple reason that there's a ton of them over there, huge concentration of cherry trees over there. And most people who see the cherry blossoms, they go to the tidal basin, so they go over by the Jefferson Memorial, the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, which is a great place to see them, don't get me wrong, but this is much less crowded and definitely much more chill. So that is East Potomac Park. You can see the airplane taking off in the background there. We have Reagan National Airport on the other side of the park over there. So if you're a plane watcher, you can stand in the park, catch some airplane takeoffs and landings. Today they're taking off to the north, so it'll be a little noisy but that's okay. It's what you kind of expect when you're walking around in this area. So off in the distance here, past the park, way off in the distance over there, that is where the Washington Channel connects to the Potomac River. And so the Potomac River is on the opposite side of the park over here. And then straight ahead, that is, hope I get the name right, Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. Used to be called Bowling Air Force Base, and then they did the realignment a few years back, renamed all the bases, and I still struggle with that. But I have already seen, before I started the live stream, several helicopter landings over there. So we'll see how many more helicopters fly down the Washington Channel and make a landing at the base. And let me go ahead and say hello to everyone who's tuned in. Almost harmless. Took the water taxi from Georgetown to the Wharf 2 years ago, and it was fantastic. Well, I'm glad to hear that. The water taxi is one way of getting around. It's a little bit different way of getting around, that's for sure. And it goes from Georgetown to the Wharf. That's one of their routes. And then the most popular route, I would assume, is the Wharf to Old Town Alexandria. I assume that because when people tell me they've taken the water taxi, it's usually that route. And Omer from Israel, thanks for tuning in. What time of the day is it in your part of the world in Israel, Omer? Coming to DC September 3rd through the 8th. Excellent. September and October, two of my personal favorite months of the year for visiting Washington, D.C. I personally like October a little bit better because I prefer a little bit cooler temperatures. If you like a little bit warmer temperatures, September, you'll probably find is good for you. But both are good, don't get me wrong. July is the hottest month of the year. And so today, the fact that it's not already in the 80s and humid actually makes this a surprisingly nice day for July. Andrew McKenzie, curious about the intent of the memorial, saving the women and the children. It's definitely not what I expected the first time I saw it. And good morning, Ainsley and Chris. Coming to the Wharf for vacation next week. That's pretty cool. Are you coming just to the Wharf, or are you coming to DC and staying at the Wharf? Hopefully this will give you a sense of what's going on around here, so you don't miss anything. And Muthoni K from Kenya. Greetings from Kenya. I love the internationalness of this audience. Coming to DC in September as well. Sounds like many of you are planning to come this September. So this is a few things going on here. So the police boat up ahead. It looks like there's two of them parked out here today. So these are not obviously on the water. So yes, these are the two blue police boats here. It's easy to spot the police boats from the fire department boats. The fire boats are red, obviously. The police boats are blue. And then this brick building up here on the left, this is the building for Harbor, what is it called? Hornblower Cruises? The company that owns all the cruise and water related stuff nowadays. So it looks like they've got a few boats parked out here, including the big one at the back. That is that one back there. That is the Spirit of Mount Vernon. So of course Mount Vernon is on the Potomac River. And you can take a boat to get there, or at least you could in the before times. Water taxi riding by off in the distance. So this company does pretty much all boat-related, cruise-related things in DC. They also run the water taxi now. So water taxi takes off from a slightly different location, but if you're going on one of the longer cruises, you would come over here to this building right here to pick up your boat. Ronnie Dove has seen a lot, but the Arlington Cemetery was not open the last time. Yeah, so it is reopened. That's the good news. The bad news is that it wasn't open the last time you came. But Arlington Cemetery is reopened. It's outdoors. No tickets required. Most things do not require tickets at the moment. Both the Smithsonian and National Gallery of Art have mostly ended their timed tickets, with the exception of the National Zoo and the African American History and Culture Museum. Now that's not surprising because the African American History and Culture Museum always required tickets. Since they opened in 2016, they've required tickets. The National Zoo is a little bit surprising. But,
Hey!
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Always fun to spot friends out here. Russ tuned in from Bedford, England. And Ronnie Dove will be helping with his brother's wedding. Very generous of you to help out with that. Alan Wynn, good to see you, my friend. Always good to catch you on a stream as well. Pretty peaceful day here at the Wharf in Southwest Washington, D.C. Let's see, Nice Guy is moving to D.C. soon. Glad you're getting some inspiration here, Nice Guy. Any idea where you are planning to move, or are you still choosing an area? I'm always curious about that. Steve Reynolds will be in PA next week, planning on a day trip to DC next Thursday. So my general advice is, if you can, Steve, don't just do a day trip. Come for multiple days, because a day trip is a tease. You barely get to do anything, and then you leave kind of disappointed that you missed out on a lot of stuff. But if you can only come for one day, then you can only come for one day. Better than nothing. Omer says it is 17:38 p.m., which I think is 5:38 p.m. in Israel. My 24-hour time is terrible. And Ainsley G, coming to DC, staying at the Wharf. Which hotel, if you don't mind me asking? There are 3 of them. I'm going to show all of them to you today. And the cool thing about the hotels at the Wharf is that you have kind of all 3 levels. You have the basic budget level hotel, you have a mid-range hotel, and then you have a high-end hotel. Cynthia Thompson just got back from DC. Wonderful trip. Glad to hear it. What was your favorite thing that you did, Cynthia? One thing I am telling people right now is that there are destinations in the world that are pretty badly overcrowded at the moment. I keep getting an ad and all my social media feeds for this Wall Street Journal article about how the national parks are all badly overcrowded, and it's not a good experience for the people who are visiting. It's not a good situation for the parks, which are not meant to handle huge crowds like that. And then you have destinations like New York City, Washington, D.C., and no, we're not overcrowded or overpriced or anything like that. So to the extent that you are willing to make a few small sacrifices, come to a destination like that, you can actually have a pretty unique opportunity to do a lot of stuff, see a lot of stuff without the typical summer crowds. Because July is typically the most crowded month in Washington, D.C., and I can tell you for sure, compared to past months, there are not nearly as many people here. Which is good for you, bad for me. Very bad for me, but good for you. So come on down. And Jackie M. will be visiting from Miami over Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend, of all the 3 summer holidays, is always the most chill. So you've got Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. A lot of people come on Independence Day. Memorial Day is when everybody's kicking off their summer fun, but Labor Day is always much more chill. So I love giving tours on Labor Day weekend. Just has a much quieter vibe. All right, Omar asks, is the Museum of Natural History and Air and Space Museum open? Yes, they are. They are both reopened. No tickets required. So if you were not a planner or you were frustrated with the ticketing system, that is great news for you. And any talks about the Capitol building opening date? No. Nothing official. I've heard some very, very, unsubstantiated rumors that maybe Labor Day, but that is extremely unsubstantiated, so don't take that for anything. So I'm across the street now. I'm on Main Avenue. Maine as in the state of Maine, not, Main Street, Maine. And had to come over here because of phase 2 of the wharf construction. So I'm always surprised because they say this is on schedule to open in 2022, but it sure looks like they've got a lot of work still to do, at least on some of the buildings, like this one here on the end. Now, of course, if you say we're on schedule to open in 2022, that could mean December 31st, 2022, for all I know, and you could still make it. All right, Andrew McKenzie with an excellent question here. Is there metro access to the wharf? So not directly, but the L'Enfant Plaza station, which is on all the lines except for the red line, is the closest station, and when I take the metro to the wharf, I take metro to L'Enfant Plaza, and then you can walk through the food court, you can walk up the stairs next to the Spy Museum, and then from the Spy Museum you can walk down the promenade, down the stairs, and you'll be at the wharf. So that was a lot of instructions I just gave you, but I'll try to point it out a little bit better when I get closer to those stairs so that you can have a general sense of where those are. Cold Player, thank you for the help with the Metro Pass phone app. Oh, happy to hear it. I have to admit, I did test Smart Trip on my phone, but I'm still old school and I'm still using a plastic Smart Trip. But I think that just goes to show that the virtual Smart Trip, Google Pay, Apple Pay, it's not for everybody. And if you don't walk into CVS and pay with your phone, then it might not be for you. My rule of thumb is when you go to CVS or Walgreens or any other store where Apple Pay and Google Pay are an option, if you're still paying with a plastic credit card or debit card, then probably sticking to a plastic Smart Trip card is the way to go. And there's no shame in that. Just from my own observation, watching other people ride the Metro and I ride the Metro, I would say most people are still using the good old-fashioned plastic Smart Trip card. So this big glass building here on the end, so there's I think 3 or 4 buildings. I'm not sure if this counts as 1 or 2. I believe that a major law firm is the anchor tenant for this big building here on the end. So this one looks the closest to being ready to go for sure. All the glass is in place, except for that spot over there where I think they had the construction elevator. If there are any construction people in the live chat who can inform us about what all this stuff is, that would be greatly appreciated. And then we've got this building right here, and we've got the one on the end that I showed you earlier that seems to be the least far along. Now, there's basically going to be everything in phase 2 of the wharf. So you're going to have this giant office building, you're going to have apartments, you're going to have condos, you're going to have, I believe, 2 hotels, one of which is already announced. And I was looking it up earlier. It's a high-end brand that I was not very familiar with. But it looks like at least one of the new hotels is going to be very high-end. But that's okay because we have some other not as high-end hotels at the wharf. So Ainsley G says we are staying at the Hyatt House. That's one that I'll show you in just a moment. Flora Vieira, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. All right, Noise Sky is still choosing an area. Any suggestions would be helpful. So it's very hard because there's so many factors that go into it. So when you say daughter goes to school in DC, I don't know if that means college or elementary school or kindergarten. But without any other information, when you first move to DC, my general advice is to pick a location that's close to your job and sign a 1-year lease, and then use that 1 year to explore different areas and decide where you want to make a little bit more of a permanent location, because it's from out of town, it's very hard to guess and guess correctly the area that you're really going to fall in love with. So even if you pick an area that's close to where you work and you wind up hating it, it's only a year, and you'll be able to take advantage of that time to find an area that you do love. All right, going to try to sneak across the street here. So I wanted to start the live stream a little bit earlier today than I usually do because the wharf on Saturdays can get quite busy. This was one of the first places I noticed back in May had kind of made a full comeback. Not every area of DC has made a full comeback from COVID, but this area definitely sure felt like it. And one key thing when you're over here at the wharf, I wish it was better marked, but the bike lane is over here on the right. The sidewalk is over here on the left. So if you're walking, make sure you stay over here on the sidewalk where I am now, because I do bike here a lot. When I'm going to the Jefferson Memorial for a tour, I will bike on the bike path over here, and it is a bit annoying when people don't realize they're in the wrong spot. All right, Steve Reynolds planning a few days next year with the granddaughter after I retire. Great to hear it. Oh, and sorry that your previous trip was canceled due to COVID. So this is, I don't remember if this is a COVID casualty or not, but there used to be an awesome store right here called District Hardware and Bike, and it was everything. It was a bike store, it was a small hardware store, Ace Hardware I believe, or True Value, one of those two. And the thing that was the coolest to me was that it was a coffee shop. The coffee shop was called the Velo Cafe, which if you know anything about bikes, you will hopefully appreciate. And the cafe was right here, right on this spot. And we actually talked about this in the Trip Hacks DC podcast episode about coffee in DC. And my favorite thing about this coffee shop was that they had one of the first walk-up windows, which was this right here. And I loved it because I don't always want to go inside, especially if I'm out walking my dog or something. You know, I don't live around here, so I don't walk my dog over here. But in other neighborhoods, if I can just walk up, order, grab my coffee, and not even have to go in, I think that's pretty cool. I wish more places would do that. But unfortunately, District Hardware and Bike is closed. It closed right around last March, so I don't know if it was a COVID casualty or if they were going to close anyway. The space, unfortunately, still is vacant. All right, Matt and Sarah Chan want to go to DC from Iowa, but new spikes in COVID make me putting it off. That's pretty sad for me. Makes me really sad that spikes in COVID are going to cause another round of people to cancel their trips. This is Colada Shop right here. Extremely popular. No, thank you. No, thank you. All right, not sure what that was, but all right, Omer with a good question. When is Labor Day? Labor Day is the first Monday in September. Jesus visiting August 19th through 21st, so excited, good to hear it. And Ainsley is very excited for the Spy Museum. So the Spy Museum is pretty close to where I am right now. Not quite visible yet, but will be visible soon enough. All right, Robert Good from Detroit coming in October. Big Lincoln history buffs hoping Ford's Theater and Peterson House is reopened. Ford's Theater is definitely reopened. Folks who came on my tour last night had gone to Ford's Theater and quite liked it. I'm not 100% sure about Peterson House, however, but I know that the main part of Ford's Theater is open. All right, Nathan asks, incoming student what's fun to do around American University. So I don't spend a lot of time up near American University, nor do I know what you consider fun, but there are surely some student hangouts up there. If anyone in the chat goes to or went to American University, let's try to help Nathan out here. It's been a long time since I've been in college, so I'm not quite sure what people consider fun. So one of my favorite spots is this little store up here on the corner, Shop Made in DC. So sometimes people ask me where they can go to get souvenirs, and you have a few choices. You can go to one of the roadside tourist stands, and those are pretty generic Washington, D.C. souvenirs, not especially unique. Or you can go to a store like Shop Made in D.C. right here, or in a past live stream I showed you a store called Steadfast Supply. Now the gifts they're more unique than, you know, a t-shirt with Washington, D.C. written on it. It's stuff that's actually made here in D.C., hence the name of the store. So if you're looking for a souvenir that's unique or that's a conversation starter, that you can actually talk about the fact that it was made right here in the district, this would be a good spot. But it's not what everybody's looking for, which I understand. LP Nelson asks, is it feasible to walk or bike from the wharf to the National Mall and other tourist attractions? Yes, it is. It's feasible to do both, and I personally do both. So we are about a 5-minute bike ride from the Jefferson Memorial and maybe a 15-minute walk from there. So it's very, very much feasible. Ainsley G, can you use a regular, not electric scooter on the bike path? That's a good question. I almost never see anyone riding a non-electric scooter anymore. I think the challenge would be that you probably can't go very fast. But I suppose if you could get that thing going pretty fast, then it would probably be okay. Do you have a non-electric scooter, Ainsley G? Alan Wynn thinks that I'm a yuppie who would hang around a place like this. Well, I don't know if I would self-characterize myself that way, but I do come around here every once in a while. Okay, so we have questions about the metro. So let me attempt to show you, once I get up here on the corner, how you would get here from the metro. Okay, so across the street, at that intersection with the crossing light, there is a set of stairs right there, where those two people are walking down right now. So if I wanted to go to the metro right now, what I would do is I would go up the stairs, up over here, then I would walk all the way down to basically where this tallish building off in the back is. Now to its right, not visible at the moment, is the Spy Museum. Right next to the Spy Museum is a big glass building and a set of stairs that you'll go down, and you'll be in the LaFont Plaza food court. And then from the food court, you can kind of follow the signs, and it will take you into the LaFont Plaza Metro. So it's probably about a 7-8 minute walk from here to get to the metro. So it's not, there's no metro station that's right here, but it's not especially far either. All right, so hopefully that was helpful for anyone who is attempting to get here from the metro. Ainsley G has a Razor scooter. Not exactly fully functioning, but I can still use it. I haven't seen a non-electric Razor scooter in many years, but it's cool to hear that somebody still uses them. I believe the Razor scooter company has gotten into the electric ones in any case. All right, Adeni, sorry if I mispronounced that, I'm sure I did, this is a favorite spot. It says, show them the waterfront and the free jitney. Yeah, the free jitney is pretty cool. I'll try to stop over there when I get to that spot of the wharf. And yes, I'll show you the water taxi and I'll show you some of the restaurants. So I've got you covered. What we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the end of the block here to the fish market. We'll go over by the fish market and then I'll make my way all the way back down the wharf on the other side. And yes, the alternative is you can take the green line to the waterfront station and then walk. The distance is approximately the same as L'Enfant Plaza. The disadvantage is that it's only on one line, the green line. So really the only scenario where that would be advantageous is if you were coming in on the green line from the opposite direction. So if you were coming from, I guess, the east or the south on the green line, you can get off at Waterfront. But if you're coming in on any other line, transferring at L'Enfant Plaza to the green line and then riding that to Waterfront is going to be less efficient because the walk will be just as far and you'll have to spend the extra time making the transfer. All right, Coldplayer will be here in November and taking a Trip Hex DC Monuments tour. Excellent to hear. Will an electric wheelchair be an issue? So the short answer is no, the tour route is accessible. The asterisk is that two of the monuments, the Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial, were built before we made accessibility part of the design, and so they both have elevators to get up. And even though the elevators have been relatively reliable this year, knock on wood, there have been a few times in the past where I've taken a tour out and the elevators were not operational. So that is the only scenario where there might be an issue, but the short answer to that question is the tour route is accessible. You can do it in a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, a mobility scooter, and I've had customers in all of the above. All right, so we've reached the end of the block, so I will turn here and make my way into the fish market. All right, Matt and Sarah Chan says, what is the best way to take a trip to Mount Vernon and how long do I need to visit? The boat tour was disappointing because it only allowed 2 hours before you have to go back. So that's disappointing to hear. I think the boat tour used to allow you more time, like 3 or 4 hours, so it's kind of disappointing to hear that if they've lowered it down to 2 hours. So the boat tour is great if you have someone who really wants the experience of riding the boat. If you have kids, for example, and riding the boat is the more fun part of the experience than actually going to Mount Vernon, then the boat would be great. Otherwise, you can, if you have your own vehicle, you can drive there, or if you don't, you can take the yellow line to Huntington, the end of the line, and then you can pick up a taxi or an Uber and go the rest of the way. All right, so let's pop into the fish market really quick. This part of the fish market is where you buy a lot of your uncooked fish. So when you're on vacation, you're probably not going to be doing much cooking. Definitely not of seafood back in your hotel, probably. But this is a spot where a lot of locals come to get stuff to make themselves. And you can also order, from most of these vendors, you can order crabs live. They come in live, and then they're steamed up and sold to you. Definitely order those in advance if you want a whole basket. On the weekend, it can get really busy in here with a lot of people shopping. It's still a little early in the morning, so not too busy. If you have a favorite type of seafood, let me know. I am a big fan of the crab legs. And I am also a big fan of oysters. I'm not really a big fan of lobster. A lot of people love lobster. Not really for me. All right. Not sure how to pronounce your username, but we're here last 4th of July from Puerto Rico and loved it. Very happy to hear that. So speaking of oysters, this is one of a few oyster spots here on the wharf. This one is Rappahannock Oyster Bar. This one's cool because they have these doors that open up, and on a nice day they do open them up, so you can sit at the counter here, enjoy your oysters with a beverage from the bar. One thing I've learned from giving tours is people ask on the tour where's a spot they can go to eat after the tour, and one of the few spots that's nearby to the Monuments tour is Old Ebbitt Grill, and their signature item is raw oysters, and turns out that not a lot of people are into that, which is okay. Jose and Michelle, that is your names. Thank you for clarifying that. Falafel Inc. I've talked about this a whole bunch of times because this is one of the few true cheap eats in DC. You can get a falafel sandwich for $3 or a falafel bowl for $4. The hummus is extra, but I mean, come on, it's already so cheap. It's still worth it. So the original Falafel Inc. was in Georgetown, and every time I went to Georgetown, I always got a falafel because I wasn't over in Georgetown all too often, and I wanted to make sure that I took advantage when I was over there. Southwest Soda Pop Shop, they got a bunch of attention last year. Delicious sweet treats. I don't have much of a sweet tooth, but I know a lot of people do. Now a spot that I do really like, Twisted at the Wharf, because I am a huge fan of all different kinds of bread, but a good soft pretzel is definitely one of my favorites. And the cool thing is that you can see they've got a whole bunch of different pretzel options here. And they've got other stuff too. They've got sandwiches, they've got hot dogs. Although I feel like if you're gonna come to a place called Twisted, where a pretzel is the W, you gotta get the signature item, you gotta get the pretzel. All right, Andrew McKenzie with an interesting observation about oysters. And Ainsley G asks, what is the best selfie spot at the wharf? Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably on one of the piers. So I'll take you down some of the piers and you can judge what you think is one of the best selfie spots. So this restaurant over here on the corner, Affocina, Italian. And they're not just a restaurant, but they've got a little store down here too. Butcher shop, you can get pasta, you can get meats, you can get cheeses, you can get wine. Not open at the moment, but should be opening soon, I imagine. I am a little bit early. The reason I wanted to come here earlier in the day is that once all the restaurants open up and everything, people really start to come down and it can get quite crowded in here. And like I said, this was one of the first spots that I noticed back in May. Really felt like it had kind of made a full comeback. Now, one important thing to know is that there are public restrooms here. They're right here. So they're underneath the, oh, I forget the name of this restaurant. I'll have to look at the other side. But it's the restaurant with the giant Make Rum Not War on it. I believe it's called Tiki TNT, if I'm remembering correctly. But then down underneath, on the very bottom floor, there is a public restroom over there. It's always good to know where the public restrooms are whenever you travel. Ronnie Dove says, We the Pizza is pretty darn good. I like We the Pizza. There's a whole lot of good pizza in DC. People from cities that are known for pizza can be pizza snobs and say that DC doesn't have good pizza, but I don't agree with that. I think we've got a whole bunch of good pizza options here. Ooh, And let's see, Christopher Ball, good timing on this question. Any good breakfast spot places on the wharf? Here's a good breakfast place, District Donut. Now, of course, if you're looking for a full breakfast, you're not going to get it here. All they've got here are donuts and coffee, but awfully good donuts, if I may say. Sometimes, because I give tours on the weekends in the mornings, sometimes, because it's nearby to the starting spot at the Jefferson Memorial, I will pop by District Donuts and pick up a donut for myself and scarf it down on one of these chairs over there, and then head back over to the Jefferson Memorial for the tour. Blue Bottle Coffee used to be over here. I won't lie, I love coffee, but I was never a huge fan of Blue Bottle. I believe Blue Bottle is San Francisco or New York, can't remember. San Francisco or New York coffee chain. It does say they are temporarily closed, so they may be back, but for the time being, no Blue Bottle. And Spencer Anderson, no problem. There's actually another oyster bar on the wharf. There's two. So if you love oysters, I've got another one for you coming up. Simon Eder planning to come to DC from Germany next April. Is that a good time of year to visit the wharf? It's a very busy time to visit the wharf. So depending on what dates in April, you may be inside or outside of Cherry Blossom Month. So the Cherry Blossom Festival starts on March 20th and goes for approximately 3 to 4 weeks after that. And there are typically a lot of Cherry Blossom Festival events here at the wharf because it's nearby to the tidal basin. So East Potomac Park, across the water, tons of cherry blossoms over there. The Jefferson Memorial is not visible because there's trees and the bridge in the way, but the Jefferson Memorial is just on the other side of the trees over there. So this pier is called Market Pier. This one typically has the least going on. But I'll take you down all the piers, just to be thorough. But it looks like there's already quite a few kayakers out on the water. There's a lot of stuff happening on the water over here. You've got people in kayaks, you've got the water taxi, you've got the cruise boats. And Coldplayer with the good advice. Check out the playlist that I have. I think it's called the month by month playlist. And I have one video for every month of the year, 12 total, and one wrap-up video where I tell you what each month is best for. And if you watch that, you will get a sense of what it's like to visit DC in April. All right, looks like we've got some people going out on a small boat over here. Looks like they're going to be paddling that boat out into the channel. Not sure where they're going, but they're out there. Alan Wynn with the knowledge. Blue Bottle is based in Oakland, but is a big thing in SF. So I thought it was from the Bay Area, but I believe after they expanded, the first place they expanded to was New York City, so. We get a lot of coffee shops here that started either in San Francisco, Bay Area, or New York City. Gregory's Coffee from New York City just did a big expansion. I showed that in a previous walk around the ballpark area. Alan Wayne, we have similar coffee tastes. Says, not gonna lie, not the best, LOL. Yeah, with so many coffee choices, if you're gonna charge a lot of money for coffee, it's really got to be the best. Now, I'm not saying I'm not willing to pay for a good coffee, but Blue Bottle's really expensive and, in my opinion, not the best. Shake Shack is from New York City. We're getting to the point where Shake Shack has expanded so far across the country that a lot of people don't even realize they started in New York City as a New York City thing. The actual shack in Madison Square Park, I believe, if there are any New Yorkers who would like to confirm that. And now it's everywhere, but on the wharf, a lot of people go here because it's delicious and it's pretty inexpensive. So if you're looking for a, I hate this phrase, but if you're looking for a cheap eat, Shake Shack is a pretty good choice. Union Pie, not open yet, but this is actually a really good slice of pizza. Since we were talking about pizza earlier, it's just a little shack here, but their pizza is really good. And my last commentary about Shake Shack is that, despite the name, I actually think the chicken is the best item to get at Shake Shack. I just ate the hot honey chicken, fried chicken at Shake Shack, and man, that was good. Better than any of the beef burgers, in my opinion. All right, nice little seating area over here. The trees are still young, so they're not going to provide you with the most shade, but it's a spot to sit and rest. And this is the little stage from the thumbnail of this video. There's quite a few stages here at the Wharf. This is one of the things that it is known for, is its concerts, live music. All right, Omer asks about the best coffee shop in DC. I'm not sure if you're saying we can include or... If anybody has been to DC and gotten some coffee that they particularly liked, please weigh in. There's so many choices. So this is the Anthem Theater. It was a huge deal when the Wharf Phase 1 opened in 2017 because the Anthem was where the big name artists were going to come play when they came through. The 930 Club, which is the famous live concert venue in DC, it's quite small, which is good because you can get small, intimate performances, but some artists, they want to play in a bigger theater, and so the Anthem was going to fill that gap. And they just had a Dave Chappelle live comedy show here yesterday. I know a lot of people came out for that. That was a big deal because that was one of the first shows that they had here in a while. Big shows, anyway. All right, Samuel Fish, good name, especially for today's topic, and wants to know if I can do another How to Ride the DC Metro. Yes, I already have it recorded. I'll probably post it in August because that video that I have now is, well, the original, the OG How to Ride Metro video is 4 years old, and it's kind of out of date. A lot of stuff has changed. So I will be posting a new one probably in August. So stay tuned for that, Samuel. So this is where you will go for the water taxi. So I highly recommend getting tickets in advance online, especially on the weekend, because I have heard people tell me that they came here, they showed up at the ticket window, and they wanted to get on the next boat and it was already completely sold out. So on the weekdays, might be okay, but on the weekend, I highly recommend getting it in advance so you don't wind up having to wait an extra hour or two for the next boat that has a seat on it. But this is where you pick up the water taxi, right behind the Anthem ticketing window over here. Evan Cortez with some good suggestions here. There's a great Filipino restaurant called Kaliwa, I believe. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it because I can't pronounce anything, but I have not eaten there. I have heard very good things. So this is called Transit Pier. Obviously Transit Pier named for the fact that the water taxi docks right here. They always have something going on over here. So sometimes it's yoga. Today it's some kind of exercise bike. I'm glad that they're not doing the class right now because these classes can get quite loud. But if you check the Wharf website, you'll be able to see what's going on.
Because we were originally going to go with the beach to see my parents. And
so water taxi picks up right here. And so what you'll do is when you have your tickets, you'll wait in the line over there. And then They'll check your ticket, they'll let you go down this ramp right next to me here, and then you'll board the water taxi. You can sit inside or outside. I personally like outside, unless it's a completely miserable day. Then the inside is nice for the AC, but you could choose either. I have thought about doing a live stream where I ride the water taxi down to Alexandria, but I haven't done it yet. I figure with my luck, it'll just be buffering and cutting in and out the entire time. But if people want to see it, let me know. And maybe I'll give it a try. As long as everyone's willing to accept that it might not work. All right, Robert wants my feedback about Hyatt House. We're not quite there yet. We're almost there. Now keep in mind, I have not stayed at any of these hotels because I live here. It's typically terrible to get advice about hotels from people who live in the city because they've not stayed at any of them. Now you can get advice about whether it's a good location, but hotels are one of the few things where you'll get better advice from other travelers than you will from people who actually live in that destination. Ainsley G, does DC have good drinking water? Yes, generally speaking, yes. There are a few neighborhoods that still have old pipes, some of the older neighborhoods, but for the most part, yes. There was actually an article in the Washington City paper a few years back about how DC got a reputation for not having good water way back when, and unfortunately the reputation is kind of stuck. The water's way better than it used to be. So this is Mi Vida, Mexican, and La Vie up there as well. And looks like, what's the name of the restaurant that's opening up over here? The little s'more cart over here. Quite fun in the winter. All right, it looks like it's called Ilili or Illy? Ilili. Thank you. So that says coming August 2021. One thing that's almost a universal truth when it comes to new restaurants is that they never open when they say they're going to. August 2021 is in one day, and that place certainly didn't look like it was close to being open. Now, will it make it by the last day in August? Maybe. All right, Adeni. Good knowledge here. La Vie, Mi Vida, and The Grill have awesome brunch. Lupo Marino has awesome pasta. Thank you for weighing in. If anyone else has eaten at any of these places, please go ahead and weigh in as well. Now, I'm not much of a brunch person, so I don't seek out brunch like some people do. But I know it is very popular. So at the end of this pier, so they do a lot of special events on this pier. Nothing happening this weekend. But this building up here at the end, I believe you can rent for special occasions. So you can have a wedding in there. You have a big corporate event or a conference. You can have an event in there. I've personally never been because I haven't been invited to any events in there. So if anybody is having an event in there, I'd love to check it out. Seth G says Mi Vida has great dinner as well. 2 years ago, 2019, the year that the Washington Nationals won the World Series, some folks on one of my tours told me that they went to Mi Vida for dinner on a Sunday evening. You know, the Nationals had played a day game that day, and they spotted some of the players and their wives in there having dinner. So I can't remember who was asking about the best selfie spot before, but this is the pier that goes out the farthest into the channel. You get some pretty cool views from here. So you could do one with the water in the background. You could do one with the boats and all of the buildings in the background. I'm not sure exactly what makes for a good selfie, but I think either of those would be pretty cool. A lot of kayaks out on the water today. Today's a good day for kayaking. Kayaking is one of those fun summertime activities that I often recommend when people say they're not that into museums or the typical stuff. And I totally get if you're not into the typical stuff, they're not for everybody. Dan Young, thank you for tuning in. Glad that you're enjoying the stream. You can check out the Wharf next weekend. All right, Cold Player asks, will Trip XDC offer Sunset Monuments Tour in November? Okay, so let's do a real talk here about this. So Trip XDC tours start at 5 p.m. If you come in July, the entire thing's going to be during the day. If you come in December, the entire thing's going to be in the dark. It's really tough to do quote-unquote nighttime tours. And even most of the tours in DC that are called moonlight tours or, you know, at night tours, especially in the summer, they're not going to be in the dark. I know people really want to see the monuments in the dark, and I'm going to have an upcoming video about this. There's 3 monuments that are good in the dark: the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, and World War II Memorial. So it's entirely possible to take a monuments tour whatever time of day it's offered, and then go back and see those 3 after dark. But to try to schedule your tour thinking that you're going to see them after dark, most tours just aren't going to offer that in the summer. Now in November, if you come on November 30th, 5 o'clock, it's going to be dark. So it really just depends on the time of year that you come. But don't pick your tour because it has the word moonlight in the description, because even most of those are still going to be primarily in the daylight, except for the winter months, which is when the fewest number of people are here anyway. All right, Ainsley asks an unrelated but somewhat related question. What software do I use to edit videos? So for the pre-recorded videos, I use Vegas, and for the live streams, I use Streamlabs. All right, so good news here. Dolcezza, which had gone out of business, was a COVID casualty. They closed a lot of their shops. It looks like a new bakery is coming soon. Not sure when that's going to be. But I was really bummed when Dolcezza closed, because speaking of coffee, they actually did have a really good cup of coffee that I liked. Even though they weren't strictly a coffee shop, they were a gelato shop that served really good coffee. But I was really sad when I heard that they were one of the bigger COVID casualties. They closed their Wharf location and several of their other locations as well. All right, so if you're watching on the live stream and you're liking it, give this video a thumbs up so that I know that you're liking it. And if you haven't said hello yet, go ahead and say hello in the live chat and where in the world you're tuned in from. All right, so here we have a new-ish restaurant called Moon Rabbit. I believe it's a fusion of multiple cuisines. I've heard good things, but have not personally eaten there. One thing is that I don't eat at a lot of restaurants, especially not ones that are in... I eat at all the restaurants in my own neighborhood. I don't eat at a lot of restaurants in other neighborhoods. So I'm not the best resource for restaurants. But we have the Intercontinental Hotel, which is the building that Moon Rabbit is in. This is the high-end hotel of the Wharf hotels, the big red brick building here. So if you're looking for the high-end option, the Intercontinental is for you. I know some folks have come on my tours, have stayed there and liked it quite a bit. Cafe Del Mar. This one I think got the most attention when it opened. It is a Spanish restaurant. And I'm not sure I've ever heard a bad review of Del Mar. People really like it. Yes, Dolcezza has really good gelato and good coffee. That's why I was so sad when they closed their Wharf location. But they do still have a few open. And Simon Eater, another tech question, what gimbal and phone do I use? So the gimbal is the Osmo 4, OM4. I think that's the model number. And the phone it's the last LG Android phone that they're going to make, because LG is not making phones anymore. So I'll probably buy the new Pixel phone when that comes out. The reason I like this phone so much is because this is probably the only phone on the market that has a headphone jack in it. So I've got this lav mic with the windscreen, and it's plugged right into the phone on the headphone jack. And I hate all the other adapters that you have to use to plug the microphone into a USB and then plug the USB in, and you've got all these things hanging off your phone. I can't stand that. So one of the reasons why I like this phone so much is the simple reason that it has the headphone jack. All right, here's Kaliwa. If Evan Cortez is still on the live stream, he was recommending this early. Excellent Filipino food. Flora Vieira from Asheville, North Carolina, and Cold Player from Tampa, Florida. Jay Stewart, good to see you, my friend. We've got 2 people tuned in, Jay on his phone and wife Claire at home. Jay, I am walking around the Wharf today. Nasui Flyer from Seattle, good to see you. I know you tuned in on July 4th when I got that ice cream. I'm always going to remember the ice cream. So here we have Pearl Street. This is a pedestrian street right in the middle of the Wharf here. And it is known for having a few additional concert venues on it. So we've got Union Stage on this first corner. Or rather, I guess, down the block a little bit. And then you've got Pearl Street Warehouse, which is on the other corner over here. I have been to a show at Pearl Street Warehouse. It's a very, very small venue. You can probably only fit a few dozen people in there. So the cool thing about the Wharf is that if you like live music, if that's just a thing you like to do, then stay over here because you've got a whole bunch of choices. So you've got Pearl Street for your very small bands, you've got Union Stage for your slightly bigger bands, and then you've got the Anthem for your big bands. So at the Anthem you'd have like the Foo Fighters. They played the first live concert at the Anthem. So that's the size of act that you can expect at the Anthem. So you're not going to get Beyonce, right? She's going to be playing at Capital One Arena or FedEx Field or some giant venue. But you're going to get like a Foo Fighters caliber band over there. They've got food over here too. So if you want to eat, it's not just music. You can get food over here too. Lupo Marino, Italian street food, which I find curious. I've never been to Italy, but I wasn't really aware that they had street food in Italy. I know some countries are known for their street food. I did not know that Italy was one of them. Alex from Cincinnati, hoping to get back to DC sometime soon. And Dan Young from Dover, Delaware. Simon Eater from Southern Bavaria, Germany. How's the beer over there, Simon? I hear it's good, but I've never been. Spencer Anderson from Annapolis, Maryland. And Ainsley and Chris from New Jersey. Donna is from Valley Stream, New York. And Colin from Omaha. DC is Colin's favorite cities on the East Coast. Excellent. Always happy to hear it. And Evan Cortez, yes. There's the recommendation there from you.
I think they're probably sampling macaroni.
All right, Simon, I'm glad that somebody else appreciates the headphone jack on the phone. They're so rare. All right, so first we have Kerwins on the wharf. This is an Irish pub. Now, the thing about Irish pubs is, if you've been to one, you've kind of been to them all. At least the ones in the U.S. They're very similar. Now, if you go to Ireland, you can go to Irish pubs, and they're unique and pretty cool. But if you want a Guinness, if you want to watch sports, it's also one of the first places that opens on the weekend. So if you get here early and you're hungry, you can pop over to Kerwins, and they'll probably be open. All right, so here we have two hotels side by side. So we've got the Hyatt House and the Canopy by Hilton at the Wharf. So the Hyatt House is this one over here on the left. That is the one that we got the requests about before. And then we've got the Canopy by Hilton, which is this one over here on the right. So as far as location goes, pretty unbeatable location over here for either of them. The Hyatt House is sort of the more basic of the two, I believe. Although I've never stayed at a Canopy by Hilton, so if anybody's stayed at that brand of hotel, let me know what it was like. I'm super curious. But that's the door that you can use to get into the Hilton right there. The Hyatt's, sorry. So, any of the three hotels on the wharf, I can recommend. I've not heard a bad thing about any of them. I've not personally stayed at them, but don't have any reason to think they wouldn't be a good choice. Old Man going in September, and Seth G from Baltimore, Ami from California, and Jacqueline from the Bronx, New York. Oh, and yes, I forgot about the outdoor stages. Well, I showed you one of the outdoor stages earlier. There's outdoor music as well here at the Wharf. I think they're doing concerts, free concerts on Thursdays. Free concerts are one of the summer fun things to do in DC. All right, Ainsley G is giving me a compliment for pronouncing their name right, which is just total luck of the draw because I can't pronounce anything right. So that was luck more than skill. Vivian Young, good to see you, my friend. So this is the Recreation Pier, named for the fact that this is where you can pick up your kayak for recreation. So there are a few boathouses in DC. The one in Georgetown, which I showed on a previous live stream, is probably the most popular of the three. The one here at the Wharf is probably the second most popular. And then there's also the Ballpark Boathouse, which is over by Nationals Park, which was not open when I did the live walk in June. And to my surprise, and I'm happy about this, happy surprise, they did open. So you can kayak on three different spots. So with this one, you can kayak on the Washington Channel. With the Key Bridge Georgetown Boathouse, you can kayak on the Potomac River, and with the Ballpark Boathouse on the Anacostia River. And of the three, I personally like the Ballpark Boathouse because the Anacostia River has the least amount of other boat traffic. And I get a little nervous being out here, especially with big boats all around. There is a speed restriction here on the Washington Channel, which is why when you take the water taxi, it feels like it takes forever for it to get from the dock all the way out to the Potomac River because it is speed restricted for everyone's safety. This is a view from the other side of Phase 2 of the Wharf. So you can see this building over here on the end is definitely the farthest along. The one on the far end is definitely the least far along, but 2022 is when Phase 2 is going to open. All right, Old Man wants to know if the museums and monuments are close by. They are. You're about a 5-minute bike ride to the Jefferson Memorial, about a 15-minute walk. That's one of the reasons why I think this is a good location, is because you're close to that stuff. In the past, I would have said hotels over by the White House are the best located because they're the closest to most of the sites, but because business travel is still almost non-existent, a lot of the stuff over in that area has not come back fully. So if you're going to come in 2021, this is actually a pretty good choice because there's so much stuff happening. You're close to the sites, so you could walk over to the National Mall fairly easily. All right, Simon Eder wants to know about the parking situation at the wharf. So there's a giant garage. So there's plenty of parking. The caveat is that it's not free parking, nor is it cheap. It's actually very expensive. So if you're fine with that, if money is no object, if you're on vacation and willing to splurge, no problem. But a lot of people, they don't want to spend money on parking, and so they try to drive around the neighborhood, and then they get tickets, and then they get frustrated. So if you're not willing to pay for the garage, then I would come down by Metro or hire a ride. Ainsley G wants to know, are these swings? Yeah, they're swings. Pretty cool, right? You can come down here and sit on one of these and swing. Yeah, it's called the Recreation Pier. I suppose the swings are part of your recreation. Oh, and forgot who wanted me to mention the Wharf Chitney. It does take off from down there at the end. So the Wharf Chitney is just a little boat, and it will take you from right here to the dock that's right over, hopefully I'm pointing in the right spot, over there. So you can go from the wharf to East Potomac Park without having to go all the way up and around over by the Jefferson Memorial. So if you want to spend a day over on East Potomac Park picnicking, or you want to take your kids over to the playground over there or whatnot, you can take the little Wharf Chitney boat. It's a free boat, and it goes from right here next to the kayaks to right over there at East Potomac Park. So that's a pretty cool amenity that not many people know about. All right, Sprouting Spirit says, do you like these newer developments or the historic DC areas with more classic architecture? All right, real talk time. So whenever I make any content about the wharf, I get a bunch of really nasty comments from locals who say things like, it's not the real DC, it's, you know, too fake, it's like an urban Disneyland, all kinds of stuff like that. They have a point, but we still have all the old stuff. You can still go to Georgetown, you can still go to Capitol Hill, and you can take in the historic neighborhoods. So I don't quite understand why every single neighborhood has to look like your favorite. And I kind of like the fact that there are both those really old, cool, historic areas and some of these much newer areas. I'm not sure why people don't appreciate the diversity more. It's not to say I don't love those old historic areas either. One of my favorite pastimes is walking around Capitol Hill, looking at those old row houses and taking it in. Simon Eder has a good question. What are the bike rental options if you're traveling with kids under 16 years of age? All right, so Capital Bike Share, you have to be at least 16 to ride, and quite frankly, the bikes are too big for most kids. So there is a place that used to be called Bike and Roll. It's now called Unlimited Biking, and they actually just moved over here to the wharf. So I will take you back over to there. Here's what I'm going to do. I will walk you back over to where Unlimited Biking is so that I can show Simon where to get a bike for the kids. And then I will walk you up the stairs and over to the Spy Museum and show you where you can pick up the Metro, because a lot of people are asking about Metro, and I want to make sure that everybody can see exactly how one gets from over here on the wharf to the Metro. All right, sound good? Good. Okay, Donna asks about the Night Monuments Tour. So my advice is take a guided tour whenever it's offered, whether that's 9 a.m., noon, 5 p.m., or whenever. And if you really, really want to see the monuments, quote-unquote, after dark, there's 3 of them that people really think are amazing after dark. The Lincoln Memorial, World War II Memorial, and Washington Monument. And they're all open 24 hours a day. So you can go on your own whenever you please and whenever it fits in your schedule. All right, Sprouting Spirit agrees with me. At least someone does. Thank you, Sprouting Spirit. All right, Steve, look forward to having you on a tour next June. So make sure to check in a few months in advance. I usually open up the tour schedule. Before, I tried to open it up 3 or 4 months in advance. Now I'm opening it up only about 1 to 2 months in advance. But if you send me an email, I can add you to the list so that you get a message as soon as it's opened up. All right, Dino, parking at the wharf, question mark. I just answered that, so rewind about 5 minutes to get the answer. Some of the restaurants are opening up now. It's almost noon. I think most of them probably open around the noon hour, between 11 and noon. This little bar over here, the watering hole. Nobody's drinking yet, but I've seen some long lines for the watering hole before. All right, the water taxi has just departed. Looks like a full boat, or at least everybody has chosen to sit outside. Like I said, I like the outside more than the inside, unless it's just miserably hot. One thing I will say, though, is that if you're desperate for a charge, there are some outlets on the inside that you can plug into. Now, the boat ride isn't that long, so hopefully you have a supercharger that can charge it up really fast. All right, Steve Durbin from Wales, UK. It's quite a long way to come, but I love having folks here from the UK. All right, Old Man asks, I'm an early bird, what is there to do at the wharf? Well, it depends on what early bird means. If you're talking 7 a.m., none of the businesses are going to be open that early. So you can walk around and just walk back and forth here on the boardwalk. The fish market does open very early, though. I'm not sure the exact time, but a lot of the restaurants do buy their seafood from the fish market, so they do open early to accommodate that. Dave Wheeler says, been missing your videos. I've been posting a video every week, unless you mean the live streams, which it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since I did one of these. If people enjoy these, I may do them more frequently in the fall. Because in the past, March through August, and then the other half of the year I did a video every other week. And so if people really like the live streams, then maybe I'll just sub in a live stream on all the off weeks coming up this year in the off season. There's a beach-themed barcade opening at the wharf for those interested into arcades. That's cool. Do you know where it's going to be? I haven't seen any info about that yet. All right, we're going to cut through this little alley here. All right, Steve asks, driving from Florida for a week, can I park at the wharf? You sure can. It's not going to be cheap, though. I have a parking video. I believe the title of the video is Where to Park in DC, and there are lots of options for parking your car if you're driving in your own car in from out of town. All right, Donna, thank you for your feedback. Glad you like the live streams. Okay, it's going to be right on the waterfront. That's interesting. When it opens, I'll definitely check it out. Probably not on the weekend when everybody's here. All right, so here's the parking price for the garage. Take a screenshot of that, at least this garage. So like I say, not cheap. The daily max, $45. So you could certainly put your car there for 7 days if you wanted to and pay $45 a day. There are less expensive options that I talk about in that Where to Park video. Okay, so over here on the corner, this is Unlimited Biking. They just moved over here from L'Enfant Plaza, And they do bike tours, Segway tours. Full disclosure, I used to be a bike tour guide, so I'm kind of partial to the bike tour. But you can also rent a bike, and they have kids' bikes, they have helmets, they have all the equipment. So if you want to come to DC and you want to bike around and you have kids, Capital Bike Share is not a great option, but that is where you can go to get a bike for the kids and do it. So the intersection is, so if you can see, it says Blair Alley Southwest. So that's the name of this little alley right here. So it's at the intersection of Main Avenue Southwest and Blair Avenue Southwest. All right, Coldplayer wants to talk about the Nats. We're not going to talk about the Nats today, after the fire sale they just had. Let's check back maybe next season, see how things are shaping up. Let's talk about the 2019 World Champion Washington Nationals instead. All right, old man asks for breakfast spots. So if you want breakfast really early in the morning, and you're not going to find it around here, I would go over to Capitol Hill. There's two places. There's Pete's Diner and there's Jimmy T's. They're both old school diners. They're both open early.
Wait.
All right, Dave Wheeler has become routine to watch the live streams on Sunday mornings. Well, I'm glad you tuned in on a Saturday morning. I usually do these on Sundays, but I have a tour tomorrow, Sunday morning. So, as much as I like to do the live streams, tour business this year has not been good. So I can't turn down a private tour to give a live stream. And Flora Vieira would like to see more as well. No problem, Simon. Hopefully that's some useful bike info on there. Sprouting Spirits has any boat tour recommendations that take off from the wharf. So I have to be honest here, all the boat tours in Washington, D.C. are run by that one giant mega corporation that runs all the boat tours, and I just can't in good faith tell people to go take tours from these big corporate chains, not in 2021. I think if you're going to take a tour, if you're going to spend your money, you got to spend it with a local company. And I'm not just saying that in my own self-interest. Well, I am, but I have a blog post where I listed 4 other tour companies in DC that all deserve your business. They're all locally owned, locally operated. So go to triphacksdc.com/local tours. And, you know, they're not going to be boat tours, but, you know, I just can't recommend a boat tour or a bike tour, a boat tour or a bus tour from some giant conglomerate based out of London or some other country when our tourism industry has been so wrecked. I just can't do it, I'm sorry. So these are the stairs that you will climb if you want to get to the metro. There is an accessible option if you do need an accessible option, but it's a really long ramp that you have to go all the way to the next intersection to get to. So if you're physically able, the stairs are the more efficient option. But if you need an accessible option, you can go down to the next block, cross at that intersection, and then take the big ramp. Yes, thank you for the support, Evan Cortez. I am trying to practice what I preach, so I am hoping to take a trip to New York City myself in the fall. And I've already got a few tours picked out. They're all local New York City tours. I want to make sure that I support the little guy. The big guys, they don't need your help. But if all the small guys don't make it, traveling is not going to be as fun in the future. Okay, so if you want to know where the accessible option is, this is the sidewalk you can come up, and you'll wind up right over here in the same spot. So that's the Spy Museum straight ahead. So you'll walk either in the middle or on the side toward the Spy Museum. Yes, Evan, the Spy Museum is very close. So, before the wharf opened, there was no easy way to get from up here to down there. That staircase is actually new as of, when they built the wharf. And I remember when it opened, people were so excited about it. And it seems kind of silly because, why would people be so excited about a staircase? But it's because for a long time, this L'Enfant Plaza area up here was really segregated from the Southwest waterfront. So it was a pretty big deal. Yes, Donna, so head over to the website triphacksdc.com/local tours. That is where I have all of my recommended local tours. So if you can't book with me because I'm already booked, that's understandable. But those other 4 on there, they'll all take care of you. All right, turns out old man is actually 36, which is not that old of a man. And the question is that too old to go into the Spy Museum? Well, it's not a question of your actual age. It's more a question of, are you a kid at heart? Because if you're a kid at heart, you can definitely have a fun time at the Spy Museum. Kids love the Spy Museum because it's very interactive. So at some museums, like in an art museum, you're kind of just looking at paintings or looking at sculptures or whatever, and kids can get a little bored, admittedly. But the Spy Museum is very interactive. I've definitely heard people who came here with no kids and had a good time. If you're into James Bond, if you're into that kind of stuff, you can definitely have fun. So, is it better to walk from the L'Enfant Plaza Metro or waterfront? Well, they're approximately the same distance, but the L'Enfant Plaza Metro is on way more lines. So unless you're coming in on the green line from the southeast direction, it's not worth transferring from one of the other lines to the green line, riding one stop to waterfront and then walking. So, with very few exceptions, L'Enfant Plaza is the more convenient of the two. Sprouting Spirits, yes, you also learn the history of spying, very interesting. There's a pigeon, a stuffed pigeon in the Spy Museum. I don't know why this is one of the only things I remember of all the things from when they used, carrier pigeons to carry spy messages. That one always sticks with me. All right, so I'm not going to take you inside, but this is the door. So you come to the Spy Museum, you come to this side, you go in this door, you go down the stairs, through the food court, follow the signs, and at the end will be the L'Enfant Plaza Metro station. And that is how one walks from the Metro to the wharf, or rather, I just walked from the wharf to the Metro. I'll have to go back and rewatch this after the fact to see the timestamp and exactly how long that took me. But I can't imagine it took more than 7 or 8 minutes. Evan Cortez, is the food court open again? Yes, it is open, but not every spot is open. So, Panda Express is open. Potbelly is open. California Tortilla is open. But I believe Roti is closed. I think they might have permanently closed. My favorite place, the South American place, is still closed. So you can definitely eat there. You just can't eat at every single spot there. All right, Jacqueline went to the Spy Museum and had a great time. Good to hear it. And Colin, yes, Planet Word, brand new museum. Amazingly, a new museum opened during the pandemic. It's a museum of language arts called Planet Word. I've heard it's very cool. We did also have our first COVID casualty museum, COVID casualty, Madame Tussauds. The Wax Museum has closed. I just noticed, I was looking up hotels for someone the other day. This is a Hilton Hotel. It used to be called the L'Enfant Plaza Hotel way back in the day. And it got renovated and they branded it with a Hilton. And the original name was the Hilton National Mall. And someone stayed there and they told me they were upset because they thought they were staying at a hotel literally on the National Mall, which is not possible because there are no hotels literally on the National Mall. But I was just looking for hotels for someone the other day and I noticed this Hilton has now renamed itself again to Hilton National Mall, The Wharf. So they're trying to get all the keywords in there. And unfortunately, they're neither on the National Mall nor at the Wharf. So they're just going to confuse everybody. That's my one gripe with hotels is you can't rely on them to properly name themselves. You got to actually look at their location on a map and make sure it's where you want to stay. All right, Sprouting Spirit asks, where's my favorite area in DC? Good question. Okay, all the areas are my favorite. Of course, I spend the most time on the National Mall, giving the tours over there. But I probably would say my favorite area for just wandering around would be Capitol Hill. That's probably why I've done more of these live streams over there than anywhere else. Because it's just a super cool, old-fashioned neighborhood where you can wander around and always find something interesting. Yeah, Sprouting Spirits says, I don't think it's a loss to lose the Wax Museum. What I posted on Facebook about this was, you know, Madame Tussauds was never a museum that I went out of my way to recommend to anyone. Even when people asked, like, hey, I'm going to pay to see a museum, which one should I see? I always said the Spy Museum. So it's not like I've lost a place that I would normally be recommending. But it is still a little sad to see anything lost. Any kind of COVID casualty is sad. So what I'm doing now is I'm walking over to the Smithsonian Castle, hopefully to demonstrate to anyone who was asking earlier how close the wharf is to the monuments and the museums. So if you had kept walking past the fish market down Main Avenue, you're a short walk from the Jefferson Memorial. If you come up that set of stairs and then walk down the promenade here, you can get to the museums. So the wharf is convenient to both the monuments and the museums, and that is why, in my opinion, it is currently one of the best locations if you're trying to pick out a location for a hotel for a visit, at least in 2021. Coldplayer never books a hotel without checking Google Maps first. A+ advice right there. I have been toying with the idea of doing a live stream of hotel recommendations where you give me some information about what you're looking for, your travel dates and your budget, and I'll help you pick something out. So if you think that's worthwhile, let me know, because I don't know if it's worthwhile. People have different processes for picking hotels. Some people, if they're a big reward member, you know, if you're loyal to Hilton, you're just going to go straight to Hilton. If you're not loyal to any brand, your process for picking a hotel is probably quite a bit different. Same goes for if you are on a very tight budget versus if you are willing to splurge. Alex stayed at the Citizen M, which is new. That's another new hotel that amazingly opened during COVID, the Citizen M. Good to hear that you enjoyed it. I usually figure that any hotel that is brand new, and by that I mean less than 3 or 4 years old, it's very unlikely you're going to have a bad time there. It's more the hotels that are old and badly in need of a renovation that you can sometimes have a less than ideal stay at. Because if the hotel is badly in need of a renovation, it probably means that it's not getting the best staff, it's not getting the most love from the company that owns it. So Donna asks, are most local tours walking? Do I recommend the bus tours? So most local tours are walking because it's extremely expensive to start up a bus tour. You need a bus, obviously. You need insurance. You need all kinds of resources. So if you want to take a bus tour, it's not going to be a local tour. If that's, if you really want to take a bus tour, then it is what it is. I think one of the bus companies might be locally owned, but for the most part they're not. If you want a bus for transportation, you can use the Circulator Bus. It's much cheaper than the tourist buses. And I haven't confirmed this yet, but I have heard that not all of the tourist buses have even brought back live tour guides yet. Some of them are trying to stick a pre-recorded track on there and pass that off as a tour, which I think is awful. Now, I'm not naming any names here because I haven't confirmed it for myself, but if true, would be quite terrible. So if you're going to take a bus tour, at the very least, make sure that they have a live guide. And Sprouting Spirit asks, is the capital area that you like has a Trader Joe? Yeah, there is a Trader Joe's on 7th or 8th Street Southeast, over by the Easter Market. And Nasty Flyer thinks a hotel video based on proximity to local attractions would be useful. It's a good piece of feedback. Thank you for that. So we're almost there. If you're familiar with DC architecture, you may recognize the Smithsonian Castle straight ahead. So I don't know the exact amount of minutes it took me to walk over from the wharf to get here, but I feel like it was not that much. Plus I made a little pit stop over by LaFont Plaza to walk around and show you the entrance and show you that hotel. Cold Player says, any opinion about guided museum tours? They seem a little pricey. I'm actually not familiar with the current slate of museum tours. There was a company that was doing museum tours that has a name very similar to mine, and their tours were in the National Gallery of Art, which for a long time they couldn't run because, you know, there was restrictions on how many people could go in at any given time. I don't really think museum tours are great. That's why I don't give them, because museums are generally kind of crowded and it's hard to give a really good tour. I think that's the reason why that company does the National Gallery of Art, is partially because they're just there's just fewer people who go to them, so you have a little bit more room to spread out. Very nice day here at the gardens right outside the Capitol. When I came here and recorded a video when the magnolias were in bloom, it was extremely crowded back in March. And someone spotted me who I wasn't able to say hello to because I was in the middle of recording. And when I tried to find him after the fact, he was long gone. I couldn't find him anywhere. I tried. So if that was you, and you're watching this right now, let me know, because it's been months and I've been trying to find out who this mystery man was. But as of today, Smithsonian has reopened most of their museums. The Air and Space and Castle just reopened on Friday. I know it wasn't you, Evan, because I know what you look like. But this was someone who was, I believe he had a camera, and I believe he was taking photos of the magnolias, which is what most people were doing that day. But I looked all around after I was done making that video, trying to find him. But I could not find him. That's the other thing. If you see me out and about, it's often really hard for me to stop and say hello, because if I'm in the middle of giving a tour, especially if it's a private tour, I really have to dedicate 100% of my attention to people on the tour, because they paid good money for that. So I'm often afraid that I come across as rude, but if I'm working, unfortunately, I just can't stop and spend a lot of time, because that's not really fair to the customers. So Andrew McKenzie asks, was Air and Space being redeveloped? Is that finished? Yes and no. We're in the middle of a seven-year major renovation at the Air and Space Museum. So I believe 2024 is the expected date of completion. So even though when I say the Air and Space Museum reopened on Friday, the doors reopened, you can go back inside, not all of the exhibits are going to be available because they're renovating it in pieces. So they'll close part of the museum, work on that part. Then when that's finished, they'll open up another part. One thing about coming to Washington, D.C. is that you can never come and see everything without something being under construction or under renovation. That just means you have to come often, and then that way you'll get to see everything. Kind of impressed how well the grass did after the 4th. There were a lot of people who came out for the 4th. It was quite exciting to see how many people were here. But the big question mark was whether the grass was going to survive or whether everyone trampling all over it was going to do it in. But it looks like this grass is still pretty green, pretty nice and green. All right, so to answer the question, is the wharf close to the monuments and museums? I sure hope I've demonstrated that it is. Sprouting Spirit, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. So I don't know exactly how many minutes it took me to get over here, but I'm now right in the middle of the National Mall. We've got the Washington Monuments right over there. We've got the Smithsonian Castle right over here. We've got the Arts and Industries Building, new exhibit coming soon, coming in November. Hopefully everything will open on time. We've got that big crane right over there. That is working on the Air and Space Museum. So that's right over there. We've got the Capitol right there. Fences now down. Visitor Center still not reopened, but no more fences at the Capitol. Big news. We've got the Natural History Museum right here. We've got the American History Museum next to that. And this was just one of the 2 routes that I took to get over here. So you could have also taken a slightly different tour route if you had gone, instead of going up the stairs where I went, if you had gone left and walked down Main Avenue. Instead, we would not be here, but probably in the same amount or less time, we'd be way over there at the Jefferson Memorial. So whether you want to go to monuments, museums, or whatever, my opinion is that the wharf is quite an excellent location for doing that right now. Thank you, Cold Player, for confirming that. 13.5 minutes. I was thinking I was going to have to go check the timestamp when I got home. But it's now 12:15 Washington, D.C. time. I've shown you the wharf. I've shown you LaFont Plaza. I've shown you the walk over here. And so this is about the time that I will go ahead and say goodbye and wrap this thing up. So if you're still with me, thank you for tuning in. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you're watching this on the replay, well, you made it all the way to the end. And so that's awfully impressive. So leave a comment on the video and let me know what the most interesting thing was that you saw, or what you are most curious about that you didn't see. Evan Cortez, now you know. Naswi Flyer, thank you for tuning in. Flora Vieira, thank you for tuning in, and for the super chat, of course. Very much appreciated. Alan Wynn, always good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you can make it back soon enough. Maybe I'll spot you out here sometime, Evan, or at one of the eateries downtown. Cold Player, thank you for tuning in. Donna, Simon, Andrew, thank you for tuning in. And remember, if you enjoy these live streams and you want me to do more, because I am considering doing more in the fall, in the off season, but I don't always know, I always struggle to know how much people really like these. And it's quite a bit different doing a live walk than it is doing a real life tour. So if you like these, let me know, leave a comment, all the things, thumbs up, so that I know to continue on. And Sylvia, thank you for tuning in. Sprouting Spirit, thank you for the super chat, my friend. And Vivian, good to see you. Walk left, stand right, the universal rule. And stay tuned for that new How to Ride Metro video, which I will be hopefully posting sometime in August. Tana says, wish I was in every city. The thing is, it's good that I'm not in every city because it's not really possible to be that knowledgeable about every single place. Now, some people definitely try, and some people are actually quite good at, travel content in lots of different locations, but there's about 180 videos on this channel now, and you can't do a single 10 or 20 minute comprehensive guide to a city. There's just way too much, especially a big city. So I'm happy to just be around here. But if you're looking for someone similar to me, there are definitely folks in other cities doing similar things. Old Man, thank you for tuning in. Cold Player, thank you for the super chat, my friend. And Colin Shenfield, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Bobby Planzer, didn't see you there, Bobby. Have you been quietly watching the entire time? Good to see you. And it turns out there's actually 2 cranes going over here at the Air and Space Museum. It was a bit of an optical illusion earlier when it looked like it was just the one crane. And they're definitely moving. So they're working hard on the Air and Space Museum. The Air and Space Museum was never one of my personal favorites, because I'm a history buff, and the Air and Space Museum has a lot of cool artifacts, but it's a little lacking on the history. So I always liked the American History Museum, the African American History Museum, anything with the word history in the name. But I've seen the plans for the 7-year renovation of the Air and Space Museum, and it looks pretty awesome. And our good friend Jeff Bezos just, dropped pocket change for him, $100 million bucks, to help with the Air and Space Museum renovation. So he's a space guy now. Lola Bug here in DC right now. Glad to hear it. Enjoy your stay. And thank you for taking time out of your vacation to actually tune in. I never expect anyone to tune in while they're actually on vacation. So hopefully you're at lunch or something. Dave Miller, thank you for tuning in. And Dave Wheeler, the Daves. All right, well, we've all said our goodbyes. So I will go ahead and say what I always say at the end of every video. Thanks for watching and enjoy your trip.